But what do you mean?
When actually we're actually being taken away from God.
Okay, fall back. What do you mean by putting things in place to deceive, such as science? When you say science, what do you mean?
So Candace Owens sat down with Nick Cannon for their second part. I don't know if it's one long one that they've cut in 3 parts. I don't know if it's 2 sections. But there was a section at the beginning of this conversation that piqued my interest, and I'm sure you know which section this is. You know, she mentioned it, and I was like, could that be my evidence? You know, we've spoken before on POV about my stance, my thoughts on science. You know, Scientology, scientists, all things science. I started with science versus religion. I once believed that science could not go with religion. Then I progressed to actually science reveals the greatness of God. You know, if you look at science, they just discover things. They don't create anything. So it's a way, you know, if they're seeing all these planets out there, Milky Way galaxy, they're just showing us what God created, you know? So that was my stance for the longest time, even until now, somewhat same. But then where I am now is where actually there is a prince of the air. There is purposefulness in the world. There is pure intentions of wanting to deceive. And sometimes to deceive, you need to look like you are a friend. So I started challenging myself in putting these 2 things together. Is that the case? So I can't argue on, you know, for example, you take a telescope and you look at in the sky and you see a sky, the sun. That's not what we're talking about, you know, because, you know, that's the sun. It's going to be there. It's going to be there. What we might discuss is whether the earth is going around the sun or the sun is going around the earth, because that I don't think anybody can say for sure that actually I've seen the earth is going, because biblically, if you look into it, the Bible sort of indicates it's the sun that's going around the earth, but a discussion for another day. I don't want to get lost in that one. So Candice mentioned in her discussion with Nick Cannon, a very interesting thing. She spoke about newborn babies and the vaccines that are pushed on the babies. And her point was simple, pure, but I thought interesting, which is, isn't that an act of faith as well on the part of the parents that are believing a newborn has just been born? You know, there's literally, they've not been, it's like, it's almost having faith in that without this jab, my child is going to catch a disease and the child is going to die. You know, and there's a large amount, large groups of parents, of people that, you know, all of them, babies born, have to receive vaccine. Even the COVID vaccine, if I talk about the COVID vaccine, for example, there was no time they had tried it. There was no time to test and see the effects. It had been developed, and a lot of people took it upon faith that when they vaccine themselves with the COVID vaccine, it's going to protect them against the COVID, or at least give them a good fighting chance, to the point where people would argue that even if somebody dies, they would still argue, if they hadn't had the vaccine, they would have died quicker. The vaccine still prolonged their life. Don't quote me on that. But arguments were being thrown left, right, and center. So what I just want to hear from you, because you know my stance on it. It's what I've already said, What do you think of what she said? What do you think of that aspect of the faith part of it, even in science? You know how we're always saying that whether it's God, a stone, an elephant, everybody believes in something. Even 100%. If you call yourself an atheist, you still believe in something. And whatever it is that you believe in requires faith. And if there is faith and belief in that, you know, especially where there's no evidence, surely that's a religion. So that's what I do know from your point of view in regards to this section of the babies and the COVID, or rather the faith thing I've just spoken about.
Well, I mean,
where are your thoughts at in regards to that?
If the thought we're discussing is even in science, is there an element of faith? Then I have no issue with that. The answer is clearly yes, because unless you have done the experiments yourself, unless you have done the tests yourself, then you're relying on the scientists, the professionals, doing those tests, finding results, and then saying, okay, guys, we've done the tests, we've figured out 5 fruits are good for you a day. And then you say, all right, thanks, scientists, now you start eating 5 fruits a day. Is that an element of faith there? Yes. Can I then say that equals religion? That's the bit that I would push back against. Now, is science a form of religion? Do people view science at the same level?
Science as a form of religion?
No. Can it be? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the thing is, can it be a religion in that someone thinks science has the answers
to everything
above all the other religions, above gods or whatever. Like, if you want truth,
I follow science.
If you want truth, look at science. Yes, if in that regard, 100%, I think someone can view it like that. However, do I think science in general is a religion and it operates like a religion? I don't think so. And I would actually argue, I would actually push back on Candace on that aspect.
Go on.
Because the fact of the matter is, humans will always need someone to follow, right? Humans will always need a leader.
Why can't God be that leader?
Fine.
So don't you think
if
somebody understands that human is the
even
leader,
in a climate where God is the leader,
exploit that?
Okay, if we're talking about people exploiting people, that happens all the time.
We're talking about the evil and exploiting that.
That happens as
Putting
well.
Things in place of mankind, making us think these are pure, these are the way forward, such as science, and having us have our faith in that.
But what do you mean?
When actually we're actually being taken away from God.
Okay, fall back. What do you mean by putting things in place to deceive, such as science? When you say science, what do you mean?
That is a fair point. I did say that it's not everything. There are certain things that they are not up for discussions. Yeah. Even if they were, I have no business debating whether gravity exists or not, whether if I throw something it comes back or not. That's fine. But I do believe that there are certain sections that are there. For example, when we talk about creation, when we talk about origins, we talk about the origin of the world, when we talk about maybe even the future of the world, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom, certain things that I would say they massively got wrong on, and that actually leads a lot of people astray. It leads people to believe in that, the world came into existence by a big bang of evolution, which is anti-God. Okay,
let me push back again on that, because the only people that believe that are the people that don't believe in God. So, because the fact of the matter is, the reason multiple religions exist is because everybody is trying to find truth, and every religion espouse that we have the truth. So that's like saying, oh, okay. This is probably not a great example, so I'm gonna leave that for example. But my point is, somewhere along the lines, humanity decided, okay, you know what, we don't need this God thing, right? We're capable ourselves, right? Or God doesn't exist, whether through deception or whatever. I'm not denying that deception exists, right? But they thought, you know what, no, they can't be God. There must be something more. So let's find an explanation. And that's where all these theories come from.
Okay, so continue on your pushback of Candace.
So these theories exist because they're trying to find answers to questions of the world. That's why these theories exist. And they'll tell you themselves, they're theories. They're not facts. If you look into them, even on the surface level, they'll tell you the Big Bang Theory. Because nobody knows for sure. They're just like...
You have people who would die by this Big Bang Theory.
Because according to them, it's the best explanation based on the evidence that they have.
And because the explanation has been written so well that is convincing people, it's the best explanation that they have.
But again, it's a conversation of ideologies. It's only convincing if you're somewhat inclined to believe it. Because someone can present to me all the arguments they want about Big Bang. I'll say, okay, great. Even if it sounds plausible, I'll be like, okay, who caused the Big Bang? Because that's where that's where it ends. And that's where faith comes. Even with the Big Bang Theory, that's where faith comes in. Because they have to believe that something came out of nothing, which according to physics is impossible. But anyway, I'm not a scientist. I don't go into it.
Finish up on your pushback specifically to what Candace was saying.
So things like the vaccines, for example, the ones that kids receive. Yeah. So there was a period in life, not so long ago, we're talking about 100, 150 years ago, where children would be born and they would get smallpox. Now, not every single person in the world had smallpox, but there was an epidemic.
Not everybody died from them.
Exactly. But there was an epidemic where a lot of people were contracting smallpox and dying from smallpox. So both things, the scientists that you don't like, got together and whatever, came up with a vaccine. All a vaccine is just a little bit of that virus exposed so that your body gets used to it. So they did whatever they needed to do, and then found a way to prevent babies from getting smallpox. what is wrong with a parent having a child and they letting them have the vaccine so that the child doesn't get smallpox? Now you're gonna say to me, when was the last time you saw someone with smallpox? Yes, that's because everybody gets the vaccine.
I'm not gonna say that to you. But okay, so in your opinion, are you not seeing an issue with that?
With what?
For a believer, with what you've just said? I'm not saying there's an issue. I want to understand from your perspective, you're not seeing an issue, because she was seeing an issue there. She actually said it's almost like science has taken the place of God, is what she was saying. So no. I just want to understand from your perspective, you're not seeing an issue with that. You're going to vaccinate your children. You're probably going to vaccinate my children behind my back. You're gonna vaccinate all children that you come across. Because you want to believe that vaccine is gonna prevent your children from getting the smallpox, potentially saving your life. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Here is a call for prudence.
As a Christian.
No, here's a call for prudence. I don't object to it in principle. This is where I think maybe this is where me and Candace will differ. I don't object to it in principle. But this is where a call for prudence comes in, right? Do your due diligence. The reason I stayed away from the COVID vaccine was like, I'm sorry, I know a little bit of science, but I know it takes years to formulate a vaccine.
Why?
This came out in a few months. I was like, I'm sorry, I should say this. I said, I will take the vaccine if it's still needed in 2 to 3 years. I'm not taking something that's come out of the factory floor
now. So have you taken it?
No, everyone is fine. Now everyone is fine. I'm not taking it. So my point is,
no. We've been doing vaccines for such a long time that now, just like we used to have to gather firewood to cook, now we have a microwave. The food is still hot. So just because it came out in a few months, it doesn't mean that it's not legit. It's because we've been doing vaccines for a long time. They understand.
Yeah, that's great. They're still trying to find vaccines now for things from the 1900s. And you're telling me something came out 2 months ago and you've got a vaccine already?
I've got a vaccine for
way. So for me, that's what I'm saying. Due diligence. So for my kid, for example, I'm as soon as my wife says, okay, we're having a child, then I'm gonna do my reading, my research, whatever. I'm gonna allow them to have the vaccines that I think are needed. Any vaccine that's a bit dodgy or I don't understand, or one of those preventative, oh, they probably won't, but just in case, I'll be like, no, thank you, because I don't object to it in principle, because I understand the thought behind it. It's like a flu. When you have a flu, do you not do something to cure the flu?
Do you not think there's an element of fear that pushes people to have that vaccine? And if so, is that not an issue? So what I mean by that is there's an element of I'm scared that my child could die from an unknown disease. So to put me at ease, I'm not going to trust that God, is gonna protect my child. My child is gonna be okay. I'm gonna take this physical thing again
to prevent it,
to inject my child to prevent my child from dying. That's gonna put me at peace. But shouldn't our peace be in Christ, in God?
No, yes, that's a fair point. And I can definitely see parents doing that, because once you have a child, you want to do anything and everything you can to protect them. So 100%, I get that. And any parent who's in that position, I would understand that. Of course, God in Christ is meant to be our peace, but we're talking about no, that sounded bad. That sounded like no, I meant like
but
no.
Okay,
no,
last 3 seconds.
So, yes, I meant that in terms of we're talking about spiritually, 100%, yeah. But if we talk about, for example, like if someone has a what's this? When your thing bursts, your appendicitis, are you gonna sit at home and say, yeah, but just is my peace? No, of course not. You're gonna get your butt up and go to NHS.
I don't know if you can compare the two, though. I really don't know if you can compare the two
in terms of what, unknown to known.
I think so. That's like me having, like, I'm bleeding from here and then I'm sitting down there. I'm gonna be okay. My peace is in Christ. No, I need to apply pressure. I need to get that stitched up. I don't think we're anyway.
But then in that same thought, one could say you're attending to your physical hurt, your physical injury, because obviously you have to. Therefore, I'm attending to
my anxiety need.
No.
Because that's what it is.
No, this potential physical injury that my child could suffer. So it's still a potential physical injury. It's still something that my child could contract, but then all I'm doing is just now I always say prevention is better than cure. So again, I'm not pro-vaccine. I'm not saying everybody go get all the jabs you want. I'm just saying I'm not against it in principle. I think due diligence is needed. Yes, science has definitely got its good bits. Yes, definitely the prince of the air can use it to lead many astray, can use it to distort people's images of things. And I think there is the call for prudence and wisdom from the saints.